Thank you all very much, and I'm sure we'll have time for a photo at the end as well too. So, Tilda Swinton, thank you so much for being our 75th anniversary Honorary Golden Bear recipient. It's a great, great honor for the festival. We professed our undying love, and it's even more undying after last night's eloquent and beautiful speech. We were very gifted last night by these words from Tilda, the poetry, and I know you had everyone backstage in floods of tears, and I really, really look forward to reading the words more and thinking about them, because I think there's so much to contemplate in the poetry of the words that you said. But I really just wanted to thank you for that. I know that will have taken so much care to craft those beautiful words, but thank you for that last night.
You're very welcome, it's my honor.
So we are going to open to questions from you all. Yeah, great. Yeah, we've got microphones coming to you.
Hello, it's Natalia Zhuk from Carta Berlin. First of all, I would like to confess my love also because it's symbolic on the 14th of February. You are really one of my favorite people in the industry, and it's always a joy to follow your way. And thank you for supporting Ukraine all the time through. My question is, you're one of the people whose career is built in that way that it shows that it's possible to remain yourself while being successful in this industry, which is also cruel and difficult and can be beautiful, but can be not always like that. My question is, how do you motivate yourself or motivate it through the years when something went wrong or not the way you wanted it to go? Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, what a great question. I know the answer to this question. There is one answer, which is I started to work in film in a collective with Derek Jarman 40 years ago. 1985, we made Caravaggio, and I've never stopped working in a collective way. That is the answer. And that's the answer to the second part of your question. That keeps me going always through all the ups and downs, all the thicks and thins, which are usually to do with raising money for our projects. Those are the thickest bits, or rather the thinnest bits. But I learned early that to work collectively suits me. I believe it might suit more people than me, and I recommend it highly, especially for young artists starting out. I really recommend that they find their community and stick with it, because it's within that community that they might find themselves able to be the most relaxed, the most trusting, the most faithful, the most adventurous, and have the most fun. And those are the reasons to make films, in my view. It's possible in that kind of environment to be authentic and to say difficult things and approach difficult things because you are in the security of, a family. It's an oft-used word, but I really think we all know that it's possible to choose a family, a tribe, and work best within it. So I think that's what keeps me going. That's, I would call, my drug of choice.
Hello, Tilda.
Hello.
My name is Konstantin Kropotkin. I'm from Russia. I have to live in Berlin. I write about queer cinema for Russian-speaking audience. So maybe you know that you are a very important person for LGBT people in Russia. You are very, and my personally big idol, a big fan of you. So I'm so excited. I have to read my question.
Read away.
Sorry. You may know that you are an important person for queer community in Russia. Could you give them LGBT people in Russia some words? What should they believe and what should they hope for now? Then their lives are in danger every day. Thank you.
Thank you, Konstantin, for your question. What can I offer that isn't what I already answered to the previous question, which is find your tribe, trust your tribe, and stay within your tribe. I think beyond that, and this may feel like a stretch, but I honestly believe we have to do this now. We have to believe in the humanity of people, even outside of our tribe. Because if we don't, if we give up, then really all is lost. So even when it feels like the lines are drawn and there is a benign and a malign camp, we have to believe that it's possible to reach and affect and change and transform the minds and hearts of people on the other side of the line. We have to believe that, because otherwise we become entrenched. So that's a huge stretch. It's something that we all struggle with to keep this faith, but I think the people that I'm talking to will know what I mean by this. We cannot give up on reaching the people we think are unreachable.
Hello. First of all, I want to say very many thanks about all this legacy what we have from your films. It's great history. Thank you. And my question is, could you imagine that the movie was made about you, like biopic about TILDA? Who would be the director of this film, for example? Director. Oh. Yeah, or Pedro, or Jarmusch, or...
All of them together.
All of them?
A scene each. That would be amazing.
Yeah.
A scene each.
Each
Yeah.
one.
All of
But it will be a long film.
Long, why not? Very long.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Question.
Hi,
Hi.
Hi, my name is Shani Littman. I'm from Haaretz newspaper in Israel. So first of all, I congratulate you for the prize and also for your very clear voice against the war in Gaza. So thank you for that.
All the wars,
All
everywhere.
the wars, yes, but this is something that concerns us.
Yes, it concerns all of us, but all the wars concern all of us. That's all I meant to say.
Yes,
Yeah.
okay, thank you. So I would like to hear your position regarding the BDS, the boycott over Israeli academic and cultural artists and institutes. Thank you.
I'm a great admirer of and have a great deal of respect for BDS. And I think about it a lot. I am here today and yesterday and tomorrow and the next day because I decided to come. I decided it was more important for me to come. I was given, thanks to the festival, a platform as I am given today, which I decided in a personal moment was potentially more useful to all our causes than me not turning up. It was a judgment call and a personal judgment call that I take full responsibility for. But I have enormous respect and understanding of the need for people to find ways of being powerful, because what we're all up against is this feeling of powerlessness. And this is, in a way, the most difficult thing that we're all having to cope with right now, is this feeling of helplessness, this feeling of powerlessness. And so any powerful action, gesture we can make feels like a good option. And I understand absolutely that that can feel like boycotting can feel, and very often is, the most powerful thing we can do.
Hello, Tilda. Mary Kosiarz, a filmmaker from Poland. Your career path has been truly marvelous. Your performances and working with directors such as Wes Anderson, Luca Guadagnino, Pedro Almodovar just recently. Was there any groundbreaking, most important advice you've been given from one of your colleagues that resonated with you and that you would like to share with young filmmakers debuting at this year's Berlinale? Thank you.
Thank you for that question. I immediately think of my beginning, and that means of Derek Jarman. I think I learned more from him, not just because I was a young person, but because he was, in a way, a great teacher. I think all of us who worked with him, who were young, and many of us were very young, who worked with him, learned everything that we have been able to learn, really, there in our kind of kindergarten years. And so what particularly did he teach me? Well, I once said flippantly, but I realize it was really true, you know, hold your own light and, I mean, literally hold your own light and be prepared not to sleep. That was very good advice, and that stood me in very good stead. Some filmmakers I work with don't ask me to hold my own light, but I'm ready, always ready to hold my own light, and sometimes to hold the camera as well. That feeling of self-determination is what he taught us. Look after your own work and bring it to the party. And he really, I remember the first films that I made with him were not only my first films, but were the first films, for example, of Sandy Powell, the great costume designer who went on to work many times with Martin Scorsese and Todd Haynes and countless other people. Her first film was my first film, and she would sit here beside me and I'm sure say similar things. He taught us how to be filmmakers. I think that's what I would say, encourage young filmmakers of any description to know that we are all filmmakers. People holding the boom, that's a filmmaker. A script supervisor is a filmmaker. A performer is a filmmaker. Actually, even someone in the craft services is actually making a film, and we are dependent on them to keep us nourished. This is really, I think, something that we learned and is a very, very important thing to remember because it keeps you webbed together. I have actually, when people talk about me working in the industry, I always find it quite amusing because I'm not an industrial animal by nature. I'm very pre-industrial, in fact. But when I have had these sort of strange forays into industrial filmmaking, which I've enjoyed very much because it's very exotic for me, it's like that's my experimental work, is when I have been, the few times I've worked in the big studio systems, the one thing I've noticed is how the industrial system divides people up into their departments, and it's very difficult for them very often to relate to one another because they're kept away from each other. And speaking as a performer, that's something that I've noticed is particularly sharp. Industrial performers in industrial films are kept in hutches. I always say, if I have a trailer, I say I'm going back to my hutch because it feels that way. And you're not necessarily, not welcome on the set, but it's assumed that you don't want to be on the set when you're not actually in front of the camera. And I love being on the set. I'm always hanging out with my friends when we're setting up a shot. And I've noticed in the industrial films that I've made that is peculiar. And people, originally, they're a little suspicious about it, but then they begin to see that it's actually quite nice having people hanging around and being, in a collective communication. So I think just stick together, keep together, don't get cut up.
Hi, I'm Timmy Zepé for Trois Couleurs.
Oh, sorry, there you are.
Can you tell us about the one movie that changed your life? Maybe not necessarily one you've been in, but one you've watched?
The first film I remember seeing when I was 8 years old changed my life. And the thing that was so extraordinary is that I didn't actually know that it was a film for years. I thought it was a dream. I must have seen it on the television. It was, in fact, you can see it now on YouTube. It's 10 minutes long, I think. It's a film by Charles and Ray Eames. It's called Powers of 10. And it's a film, it's a scientific film that they made for, I think, ICI. And they come out from two people on a picnic blanket, and they come out by 10 meters, then they come out by 100 meters, and you see that they are by a lake, Lake Michigan, say, and then they go out, you see the United States, then you see the globe, then you go out into the galaxy, out, by 10, by 10, by 10. And then you come in, you see the world, you see America, you see Lake Michigan, you see the blanket, you go in onto the back of the woman's hand, you go into her bloodstream, you go right into the heart of the atoms in her system. It's mind-blowing. And when you're 8, it's phenomenal. And I show it to 8-year-olds within the bounds of my foundation that I have with Mark Cousins, the 8.5 Foundation, which is about making film fans a new birthday at 8.5. And that's one of the films that I push them. And you can see their minds blowing. And it makes you fall in love with cinema, the capacity of that. When I talk about boundarylessness, that's what I'm thinking of. And when you get that hit when you're 8, you know what boundarylessness means. So that's the film that changed my life.
Hello, Tilda. My name is Marcus. I work for One Press TV in Sweden.
Hello, Marcus.
Hello. I want to talk about yesterday as well. It was a great evening, and you received your golden beer, and thank you for a great speech.
Thank you.
You've been to Berlin many times and been part of many movies here. So I want to ask you, how did you feel when you found out the first time that you were going to receive the golden beer for your lifetime achievement, considering also you got some history here to Berlin?
I was really, really touched. It really means a lot to me. I think it might be clear after last night what it means to me. This is the root of the rest of my life. This is the root of my filmmaking life. And it's because of this festival. Now, you know, if we're going to play a hypothetical game, you could imagine me maybe going to any other film festival first. It probably would have made a huge effect. But there is an internationalist core in this film festival. There's something so crucially internationalist about the spirit of this film festival. Maybe it has something to do with the first remit when it was set up in 1951, to be about communication, to be about understanding between people. I don't know, but it has at its heart this sort of incredibly open, it's like a fan, it just opens the world. And it has these incredible sections. I mean, it has, of course, the Wettbewerb, but it also has the Forum, which is extraordinary and an even wider palette than the Panorama. And it has, you know, the Kinder Festival. It feels to me as if it's part of its endeavor to just open eyes. And yeah, it really gave me, as I made clear last night, you know, my life's work. And so it means an enormous amount. It's like, you know, it's no secret that I wasn't very happy at school, but this was my school. So it's like your school giving you a very beautiful golden bear and saying, keep going. It's a lovely thing.
Hi, Tilda. I'm Diana Martirosyan from Yerevan Magazine, Armenia. I teach at Yerevan Film Institute, and my students a couple of days ago just watched Orlando. And yeah, they are exploring Guadagnino, Almodovar, and Sally Potter. I know all of them, all these directors are great and various and unique, but is there any explanation for you, like what unites you, and like what is Tilda Swinton type of film, if there is any, I don't know, inner explanation for it? Because some people, especially young people, when they explore cinema and they watch that kind of films, they see this something, I don't know how to call it, between all these works. And one small question, you worked, the main character of We Need to Talk About Kevin, and your character's name is Yves Khachaturian, and Khachaturian is very Armenian last name, and we always thought, what is there something behind it, or Lynn Ramsey just, I don't know, accidentally has chosen it? Thank you very much.
I'll answer that question first before I forget it. That is, of course, comes directly from the book by Lionel Shriver. And the book, like all adaptations of all books, the film concentrates on a kind of fillet of that novel. That is an extraordinary novel, and it's that fat. So there's all sorts of explanations and curlicues in that book that we didn't explain in the film. But Eva Kachadurian is, in the book, talks a certain amount about her sense of identity, her kind of slightly fractured sense of identity as an American, that she has this Armenian, there's something running through her that disconnects her from America, and she's a huge traveler. She starts this imprint, which is a bit like The Rough Guide or Lonely Planet, and she becomes a famous and extremely empowered traveler of the world. And it's made clear in the book that she's not an immigrant as such. She's, I can't remember, but let's say she's third generation. But she has this feeling of being, her identity is split in a way, and she's pulled towards the rest of the world, and is aware, it's explained in the book, that makes her a little at odds with the many Americans she knows, including her husband, who is only interested in America and doesn't really want to travel at all. There's that feeling of her as an American being with one foot outside of America, which is, there are Americans who feel that way, but there are a lot who don't. And it's a very interesting portrait that Lionel Shriver paints in that book of that kind of predicament. And now I've forgotten your first question. What's a Tilda Swinton film?
Yeah, is there's any, I don't know, maybe
one with me in it, I don't know. I can't think of what might link Bella Tarr and Wes Anderson and Jim Jarmusch and Sally Potter and Joanna Hogg and Luca Guadagnino and Pedro Almodovar and all the others, my friends, amazing. I mean, it's such a mystery to me. The thing that's so extraordinary is most of these filmmakers, I always, as you may know, choose people first. And I explained earlier, there's a reason for that, because I started with people. That's my connection with filmmaking. And I learned that also from Derek. Derek was a painter, and he knew what it was to work alone, but he chose filmmaking to work collectively. I started my creative life as a writer. I know what it is to work alone, but I make films for the company. It's the same thing. And most of the people that I have worked with, I've revered before. I've known their work. I sometimes work with people for the first time. It's their first film, and still I'm in some way involved in a conversation with them. But more, in the last, I would say 20 of the 40 years, I've been working with people whose work I know very well and I revere. And so when I work with Pedro Almodovar, and I have poured over every frame of his work, and then he invites me into his world. When Bella Tarr is shooting and asks me to look in the monitor, and I'm looking at a Bella Tarr frame, and then I walk into the frame, it's insane, because I know those frames and I love them so much, and it is very odd to see myself in them, as odd for me as for anybody else. So the thing that links me with all of these people is that they all want to have the conversation. They want to work out of a communicative atmosphere. And I did have this extraordinary blessing to meet Derek Jarman, to start with him. When he died in '94 of AIDS, way too young, I was up a gum tree, as we say in English. I was kind of high and dry because I'd been working for 9 years. I'd made 7 films with him. I'd only made 2 other films. I'd made Orlando with Sally Potter, and I also made a film which I'm so proud we are showing here as my chosen film for my Ehrenbär, Friendship's Death, which I made with Peter Wallen in 1986. And apart from that, I'd only worked with Derek. So when he died, I was kind of stuck. I certainly knew I wasn't industrial. I wasn't an actor. I wasn't interested in being an actor. I didn't know how to go and be in other people's films. So that was one miracle that kind of came to an end. But then the second, like lightning striking twice was other people turned up and came to me and said, oh, I would like to have a conversation with you. And lightning just keeps striking, you know, these families, these people, and the fact that they are, as filmmakers, so extraordinary and so diverse, but then all filmmakers are diverse, all filmmakers are unique. You know, that we can't really chop it up and make it schematic. We're dealing with individual artists here, but one thing they all have in common is they wanted to play with me. That's it.
We've got time for 2 more questions, and they're already set up, I'm afraid. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Antonella Montesi from Switzerland, Media Press, Corriere dell'Italianità. I want to first say thank you to Tilda and to Tricia because I feel home. I think everybody of us feel home with this festival. It's a big empathy. And my impression is I thought I come to a press conference, but I enjoy a master class. You are very generous. You explain a lot of things and you could be something else. My question is, you have already reached a lot, but I think you have a lot of dreams too. Which are the dreams, if you want to say us, that you want they come true again with the cinema and with your life? Thank you.
Thank you, Antonella. Wow, that's a question that's very much on my mind, because I can tell you that when I go home on Monday to Scotland, I'm entering something that I've been looking forward to for about 15 years, which is a period of my life when I do something different. I can't quite say what it is, but I can say I'm not shooting a film for the rest of this year. I want more time. I want time to develop projects that some are for the cinema, some are not, but I need time. And as we know, filmmaking is merciless mistress, and I've been under the lash for a while. I don't know if you've heard other filmmakers say this, and maybe it's true also for journalists, but since COVID, that lull, things have got a little crazy. Because what happened in the olden days, you know, BC, before COVID, people used to say, okay, we think we've got the money, and you could say, if you're making an independent film, you could say, could we just hold for another 9 months because we'd really like to develop this and that and the other? And people would very often, you do a kind of deal and they'd sort of say, okay. And so you could make your development what you wanted it to be or you needed it to be. And since COVID, there's been, no, the money's here now. We've got to do it. And that feeling of grab, smash and grab, and insecurity about finance and has been really strenuous for us all. And I need a break, so I'm going to have one. But I'm going to have some peace and quiet to think and figure out what the next 40 years are.
Gorgeous.
Thank you.
Last question.
Hello, Anna York, Pop Matters. Good morning, Ms. Swinton, Ms. Tuttle. To wrap things up, I know we're running out of time. I'm going to keep this shortish, hopefully sweet, and very open-ended. When we talk about artists, and especially actors, we usually talk about you and the rest of you as vessels. We talk about what you give to the world, what your films mean, and so on and so on. And we know here, I guess, all very well what your films have given us. Everything over the decades. I profess my love, of course. But as we're wrapping this up, I'm wondering, what has your career given you? Not the medium of cinema as such necessarily, but being within the industry, without the industry. You have so much wonderful experience as an actor, an author, a speaker, an activist. So I would like to hear, 4 decades in, how do you see yourself within or without the industry? And what have you gotten out of this entire experience? Thank you.
Very happy to answer that question. Very, very simply, connection. It's what I was looking for as a child, frankly, and as a teenager, and as a student. And then when I started working as a practicing artist, I found it, thanks to Derek Jarman, not just a connection with my comrades in filmmaking, but also with the audience, and also with journalism, with you writers. That's so important to me. I think it's, I mean, it's funny because someone asked me recently, you know, what would you have done if you hadn't met Derek Jarman? And, you know, what work would you have done? And I thought about it seriously because I wanted to give an honest answer because I'm not a good liar. And I thought, there's only two things that were in my mind. One was to be, maybe work as an apprentice to a trainer of racehorses, or to be a writer about film. And I have so much respect for film writing, and we need it as filmmakers and as film audience. We need intelligent and responsive and educated film writing. We need film writers to know the archive. We need people to understand movements in filmmaking. And I'm really invested in filmmakers and film writers being able to have a clear communication. So connection, that's what I'm in it for, and that's what I get from it.
Tilda Swinton, thank you so much.
Thank you, everybody. Stand by my curly chair. Okay, thank you, everybody. Bye-bye. Have a good festival.